Hello friends, and welcome to a brand new camera comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S24 against last year's S23 Ultra. I'm doing this video because both phones have similar prices. Right now, we are recording at 4K at 30 frames per second. Tell me in the comment section below which one do you think has better colors and which one has a better audio.
Before we start reviewing pictures, let me just address the testing process for new viewers. All the daylight pictures are taken in auto mode with Scene Optimizer enabled, but all the other AI or beauty features are disabled. I also try to take both pictures from the same angles for the best results. When it comes to regular daylight shots, for the most part they have a similar processing with vibrant colors and excellent dynamic range. There are however some differences, so let me break them down. I noticed that the S23 Ultra usually takes slightly brighter pictures while the regular S24 has better shadow areas. If you look at the sky, you can see it is brighter on last year's Ultra while the building looks a bit more natural on this year's base model. They went back and forth, and sometimes, like in this scene, I wasn't able to notice any difference at all. Both pictures are great with vivid colors and fantastic dynamic range. Overall, I would say that there isn't a clear winner when it comes to daylight pictures taken with their main cameras. Both devices are also equipped with ultra-wide cameras, and in this particular case the S24 is actually brighter compared to the S23 Ultra. When I look at the trees on the left side, I can definitely tell that they are more visible on the newer phone. The ultra-wide camera of the S23 Ultra produces more dramatic colors, while the one found on the S24 has a slightly lighter tone. Both are really good, and personal preference here plays a big role. I can't deny that this year Samsung has done an amazing job with darker areas, like here for example, where all the greenery is much brighter and visible on the S24 instead of being almost black like on the S23 Ultra. Nevertheless, there were cases like this one where the S23 Ultra was actually brighter compared to the S24, but the difference isn't really that big. But for me, the S24 wins this round simply because it is more reliable. These devices are also equipped with a 3x telephoto sensor, and just like earlier we have similar results. The S24 is a bit darker while the S23 Ultra has a slight tint to it, but overall the differences are minor. The S23 Ultra has also a 10x periscope sensor while the S24 relies on digital zoom. As expected, the S23 Ultra is sharper, but the S24 isn't bad at all. Sure, its picture is noisier, but it managed to keep the original red color while the S23 Ultra is too bright. Once again at 3x both are great, but this time it is the S24 the one with the brighter image while the S23 Ultra is darker. At 10x in this case the difference is even smaller compared to before. I wasn't expecting the S24 to keep up with the S23 Ultra at this zoom range. On the other hand, when there is text on the scene, the S24 won't be as good as the S23 Ultra as seen in this sample. Besides that, the signs are almost as sharp as on the S23 Ultra. When zooming all the way in at 30x, you can see that the S24 becomes unusable while the S23 Ultra is fantastic. Its picture is very sharp, and honestly, it makes me sad that they removed this sensor on the S24 Ultra. The ultra-wide lens of the S23 Ultra has autofocus, so it can take macro pictures, while this feature isn't present on the S24, and this is the closest it takes pictures without losing focus. If macro pictures are your priority, then the S23 Ultra should be your choice. Portraits taken with their main cameras are good on both phones, but I prefer here the S24. The S23 Ultra made my face too warm and my coat has lost most of the details. The S24, on the other hand, kept most of the details of my coat, and even my face isn't as saturated as on the S23 Ultra. Portraits at 3x are the same, with the S23 Ultra being too vibrant and the S24 being a bit more natural with pleasant colors. Edge detection seems to be very similar on both devices. Portraits, in my opinion, are a big step up with the newer S24. The results from their front cameras tell a different story. Here there aren't any improvements at all, with both pictures being extremely detailed, but with my skin color being not that accurate. I never thought that the front camera of the S23 Ultra was bad at all, but I kind of expected more from the S24. Seems that this year, at least when it comes to daylight, both are very similar if not identical. When it comes to videos with their main cameras, honestly, they are identical in terms of stabilization, details, and even dynamic range. As you can see, it was a cloudy day, so colors weren't as vibrant, but they were great even though the weather wasn't as good. Recording with these phones during summer months will be a joy for me. They continue to be identical even when recording with their ultra-wide cameras. I knew that they wouldn't have many differences, but I didn't expect them to be so similar to each other. I was also very surprised with the stabilization since they are handheld and they are extremely steady. Videos recorded with their 3x telephoto sensors are the same story. I really couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the results. I had to check a couple of times because I thought I messed up and put the same video on both sides, but no, they really are almost identical. Finally, we can see major differences at 10x, but honestly neither of them are good. On the S24 there is a lot of noise as I move, while on the S23 Ultra I don't look as detailed, but the background is much better and the noise isn't present. Moving to low light, and from now on every picture is taken with night mode enabled with automatic seconds. In this first sample I like both pictures, but it seems that the S24 is a bit more vibrant, but my face still looks natural. The S23 Ultra is also really good, but this time I prefer the newer model. In this next sample the difference is bigger in favor of the S24 because my face isn't as detailed on the S23 Ultra. My hair is also messy on the older phone while it is sharp on the newer device. Compared to daylight, at night there are some improvements. With their main cameras, both phones are really impressive. The S23 Ultra last year was one of the best phones when it comes to night shots, and the S24 continues this trend even though it has a different sensor from the Ultra. There are some differences in processing like the warmer color of the S24, but they are mostly similar and the results they produce are really good. I really like what Samsung has been doing these recent years. The Samsung Galaxy S24 has a slightly warmer output compared to the cooler tone of the S23 Ultra, but honestly both are fantastic. Their pictures are some of the best in any smartphone today. The results weren't always identical, and for example in this particular case the S23 Ultra is warmer while the S24 has a bit more muted colors, and that's why it is called a comparison since no phone is always better than the other. Even when taking night pictures with their ultra-wide cameras, both phones continue to impress me with vivid colors, plenty of details, and very balanced light sources. The S23 Ultra seems to be a tad bit sharper, but overall, they are similar. In other samples like this one for example, I wasn't able to distinguish them from one another. This just shows that Samsung's signature processing is present across all of its flagships in recent years. Usually ultra-wide cameras are left behind compared to the main cameras, and this is especially noticeable with cheaper models, but with the S24 this isn't the case and its ultra-wide camera is awesome. The only difference I was able to note in these shots was at this particular sample, and this is so minor it isn't even worth mentioning. I am talking about these two lights on the back. They are handled just a bit better on the S24, but honestly this isn't really a big deal. These cameras are both almost perfect. The biggest difference between these phones is with zoom. At 3x the S24 is actually a bit better. This particular lens is the weakest camera on the S23 Ultra, and in my opinion the S24 is doing a better job since my face and my hair are sharper. In places with plenty of light sources the S23 Ultra recovers and matches the quality of the S24, like here for example. But when we zoom in at 10x you can see that the S23 Ultra retains the quality while the S24 loses details quite a bit. Once again with this other sample at 3x both are fine with plenty of details, and with the S24 being just above the S23 Ultra. Compared to daylight at 10x the S24 isn't really able to handle the optical zoom of the S23 Ultra. Earlier I was stunned by the quality of the S24 at 10x, but at night the difference is much bigger in favor of the Ultra. At the end of the day, digital zoom just can't be as good as optical zoom. When it comes to portraits, I think that the S24 is doing better since my face is sharper and even some of my hair stripes above my head are on focus on the newer device. The Ultra isn't far behind, but I prefer the more detailed picture of the S24. The S23 Ultra makes my face a little bit brighter compared to the S24, but in general they are similar and both produce great results. Even the edge detection is more or less similar. So guys, what do you think? Which one was your winner? Personally, I have never done a camera comparison where two devices are this close to each other. The Ultra is a clear winner when it comes to 10x pictures at night, but besides that, in every other category the results were almost identical. If zoom pictures are important to you, then you should definitely go for the Ultra, but if you want a smaller phone, then you won't miss much if you get the regular S24. Thank you for watching, and for more content like this please consider subscribing to my channel.